feeling a little crazy today.
Yeah. I'm getting back into NFTs, man.
Oh, God. Okay, which should I be buying?
There's this really interesting one I'm looking at right now. It's like $500. It's actually like League of Legends, and it's this player Faker. I think it's like a NFT, like celebrating his enshrinement in the Hall of Fame. And like, wait, hold on. I'm getting some news here. This is not an NFT. This is just a thing that acts like an NFT with none of the good parts of an NFT. It's apparently this is all the bad parts of an NFT.
So you can trade it, I'm sure.
Just price something as expensive as an NFT, but you can't trade it. And the royalties are not actually enforced by any kind of smart contract.
There are no royalties, right? It just goes straight to...
No, there actually are. Yeah, so that's what's interesting about this. Yeah, so there's actually like 30% of the sales from this are supposed to go back to whichever the Hall of Fame member is. So they're basically like replicating the price points and kind of smart contract-ish functionality, but not doing any of it through NFTs. But don't worry, people hate it just as much as if it was an NFT.
For those who are not quite following, League of Legends announced a new series of skins for Faker being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And the price points, pretty vary. So like you can get the cheapest version of the skin for $44. But I guess at the high end, we have these Immortalized Legendary skin, which costs almost $500. And I get to get a revenue stream on the back. Which, I mean, this goes to my point that I've been asking you and everyone who's in Web3. We're deep in the Web3 weeds here at Uptick. How much of what Web3 promises can exist without Web3? And it's interesting to see that they're doing this, right? Because this is basically the promise of Web3 without the technology of Web3.
No, that's a horrible take, Xander. It's all of the bad parts of NFTs with none of the good parts. So it's like the wrong lessons were learned from the NFT bubble, which is like, hey, you can sell a skin for $500 and you can tie it to royalties. But yeah, there's none of the value actually being able to be captured by the player if it does become rare and desirable. And there's also no way to actually enforce these royalties at a smart contract level if Riot changes their mind. So I hate this. The rest of the gaming community hates this. It's all the bad parts of NFTs with none of the good parts.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Excited to talk about the Ethereum ETF.
We all got surprised by this. So there was like 5% odds on the Ethereum ETF actually being approved. The Ethereum ETF received an unexpected move from the SEC on May 23rd. The SEC approved a rule change, which basically paves the way to allow for Ethereum ETFs. So it's not a complete green light, but it's basically like the big obstacle has been removed. So why are we covering this on the Games Growth podcast? It's a good question. I think this is meaningfully different from Bitcoin ETF being approved. And the reason why is Bitcoin doesn't actually do anything. It's just a form of digital money at the end of the day, and you can apply the validity to that you want to. Ethereum, the analogy I like is Ethereum is, if Bitcoin is gold, Ethereum is oil, meaning that it is the first crypto or Web3 asset that actually does stuff, that actually like empowers ecosystems that you can build things on, that is going to be finally publicly traded in the US public markets. And not to go too in the weeds, but the big difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum is is this concept of smart contracts. It's sometimes referred to as programmable money. The reason Ethereum gave birth to the term of Web3 and is the underlying tech for most of the ecosystem that lets you do Web3 stuff, build ownable assets, tradable assets, program, Web3 layers to do things in your games. So beyond just being a token that can be traded, which is ultimately what Bitcoin is. So this is kind of the big center stage debut, finally, of this being validated in the public markets in the US and being traded by the mainstream. We're not 100% of the way there yet. There still has to be the S1 filings by the individual purveyors of these Ethereum individual ETFs, but the hard part is out of the way and it looks like this is finally happening. So potentially a large validating step to Web3 legality and ultimately to a more valid path with less legal murkiness for games building in Web3. So that's my high-level summary and why we care about it here at Uptick. Xander, what are your thoughts?
I called this, I called this a month ago. I was like, hey, so, this is my friend, Normie, doesn't work in gaming, crypto curious. He's like, Bitcoin seems like it's the only one. I was like, the Bitcoin seems like the only one. You got to check out ETH. I mean, ETH is where people are actually building interesting stuff on it. And if you want to see where the future of technology is headed, check first on gaming. I mean, if you look at basically every segment from VR to mobile, to any adapting technology. Look at what the games are doing first, and then everyone else follows. And people have been building games on ETH for years now. And so this is really, really interesting and exciting to me. I mean, personally, ETH is basically the only cryptocurrency I hold at any sort of volume. So great for us. Anyone who's a holder, this is going up. To your point, makes it much more accessible to the average user, the average normie who is Web3 or crypto curious. And I think it is interesting to all the folks who are building technology on top of it, and just gives us another layer of mainstream adoption, which I think gives credence to that this is something that is going to continue to exist going forward. And the U.S. government is much, much less likely to stomp on it if BlackRock and the people who own the U.S. government are making money off it as well. So,
yeah. And now more than ever, obviously this is not a podcast where we give financial advice, but I do look at Ethereum, to your point, Xander, as sort of like the fundamental building block for if you're betting on Web3. So even though a lot of the actual gaming systems that we support and we're bullish on, like some of our partners like Immutable and Polygon, Arbitron, like they're all chains themselves or their own technology stacks, but underlying all of these, or at least the bulk of the large players, is Ethereum. Obviously, there's ecosystems like Solana outside of that are like Ethereum killers or competitors, but it all kind of comes back to Ethereum as the core concept that brought crypto past just a token and speculation into a building block to build technology, to build games upon. Some of our audience hates it when we talk about crypto and Web3 stuff, so why don't we move on to the next thing?